Hello, folks. First of all, I would love to welcome you all to the second session of QonfX. Now, the topic of the second session is surfing the AI wave, embracing generative AI in the development and testing. And today, the speaker with us is Navin Nair. About Naveen, he's currently working as a head of enterprise modernization at ThoughtWorks with over 20 years of experience in building digital products and solution. He's skilled in various roles like developer, architect, and manager. Naveen loves to create scalable systems using cloud data and AI ML. I would love to invite Naveen on the stage.
Hello
Awesome.
everyone. Am I audible?
Yes. Naveen, the stage is all yours.
All right. Thanks a lot, Arun. Thank you everyone for joining. And good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whichever time zone you're joining me from. I think let's talk about the topic here, right? So, generative AI has become a buzzword. I think it's at the peak of its hype cycle, and we are at this inflection point, and we are all thinking and wondering: is Gen AI a wave to ride on, or is it a potential tsunami? Right, so let's hope we can decipher this during this next 30 minutes conversation that we have, right? So uh, what I'll talk about is the hype around hype. Is Gen AI hype? Is it a hassle, or is it a hope for the future? We'll talk about what Gen AI is already impacting today, when it comes to creativity, when it comes to software development life cycle. I will also talk about what's next, right? A crystal ball into the future. It's just my view of the crystal ball into the future. We don't know what the future looks like, but just my view. And finally, I will talk about the Gen AI ecosystem for development and testing, because all of us are from that craft. I think most of us in the call are either developers and testers. So we would be very interested to know what's happening in that space, right? So yeah. So let's talk about Gen AI, right? This is a nice picture I saw somewhere, and it truly captures what is happening in the Gen AI have right now, right? So yeah, so I think if you again going back, if you didn't see the screen, right, the picture on the right talks about the hype right now is Gen AI, and if you follow the Gartner hype cycle, there is Gen AI. This is the hype cycle. It is right at its peak, and the time it took to reach that hype has been fairly fast, right? So we are right now at the peak of inflated expectation, and typically if you have followed, it could continue for long, or it could probably, if you follow the metaverse hype cycle, it could probably get into a peak of disillusionment in no time, right? So those things we don't know, but this is where we are right now. And before we go ahead, I just want a quick mood poll to figure out what do you folks feel about Gen AI, right? So there are three options. Is it awesome? I'm excited about what it brings for the future. It is worrying in terms of the potential to take away jobs, and it's just another fad. It will come and go. Okay. Uh, I think I don't know if Shashank you can put up the mood poll, but would like to hear your views around what you think it is. Yeah, I saw somebody saying all the three, but yeah, possible. Yeah. So again, so if you go back to the news and media cycle, right? So there's a lot of hype around it, positive, negative. There's a lot of things around the fact that Gen AI can reduce the time to take things to go to market. The speed at which we can deliver things is faster. The productivity can improve much more significantly. You also see the significant amount of investments being put by large companies like Microsoft, OpenAI, Amazon. So there's a lot of buzz that is happening. Okay. uh, there's also on the negative side of things, right? And every technology, right? It is how humans use the technology. There's a lot of negative side of the things also, where you're seeing that Gen AI is capable of. If you see, India is going through polls right now, so there is a lot of fake videos, deepfake videos already out there. So those are genuine problems around these things. And the worrying part of the Gen AI trend is not that deepfake is something new, but at the ease at which you can do deepfake now, right? So those are concerns. Of course, you can see areas where people are worried about the potential on the impact of jobs and all that, right? So those things are there. So these are the things that you feel. I think we're bombarded by this information, and I also want to bring this point. Right? These things are a bit cyclical. I've been in this industry for more than 2 decades, and there have been many of these cycles that have happened. But if you remember the 2016, 2017, there was around AI, the traditional AI, and RPA was going to impact jobs. But here we are, right? I mean, things are still going well. Some of the low value adding work has moved out, but we are always doing much more better value adding work. Right? So this is the nature of the things. However, I want to bring out certain things, right? So we always felt like if you look at right from the time when industrial revolution started, everything was the repeatable task was getting automated. Okay, so human creativity was never impacted. So it was always like you are doing a job on the factory floor. If the same thing can repeat 10 times, put a robot in. Even RPA, if the same task you're doing on a screen 5 times, put an RPA in. Right? It's about repeatability, and it was always easy to automate these things. Right? But now the thing which was the secret sauce of humans, that is getting impacted. Right? So creativity, building new videos. Now this is a video of OpenAI Sora where just a small prompt and this entire video was generated, a 1 minute video was generated in a matter of minutes, right? So these are things that are happening right now. If you look at uh, uh, if you look at you can put a prompt and you can get an image, right? Again, a lot of the pictures that you see in this deck also is created through Midjourney, right? If you look at, I can create a 3D, and again, just a matter of putting a prompt, right? And I can create music, right? These are things which were deeply human creativity associated, but these are things now you can do that, and anybody can do that, right? I'm not a UI person, I can do that, right? So those are things that are happening. If you look at the other end of the spectrum, it is also impacting software development lifecycle now. So I was just trying to do that. Okay, if I want to build a retail website, e-commerce website, what would it require to go through the entire lifecycle, right? So I went around doing some product research on some tools, and I said, okay, give me an analysis of the fashion trends and all that, right? So it gave me different ways of product research. Then I said, okay, I went to a Figma or Galileo.ai. I said, I am not a UI UX person. I'm a dev and an architect, right? So I don't know about UI. So I just said, can you help me build some design? It helped me build a design fairly quickly. Then I said, okay, now I want to build a recommendation model. Went to Chat GPT, Gemini, whatever. I said, can you bring me a code? It can build that fairly quickly now. And then finally, you're looking at the test aspect of it. Okay, I built my code, I need to test, right? So these are elements of SDLC which typically, and I being in the past, like you always thought if you're an AI or an ML engineer, you are the person who's building these things. But now you can say these things can be built by the large language model themselves. Okay, so and that's a fundamental shift that you see that is happening right now. So uh, and I can also see that there is a aggregation of things happening. There you see that there were individual tasks of UI, UX, dev testing happening separately. But I don't know how closely you all are following, uh, how closely you're following the story about Devin that talks about the first AI software engineer, where it brings all these things together and is also able to do that. Okay, so I'll just play a short video on this.
AI
I hope
software
you can
engineer.
hear it. If not,
Let me
I
show
will
you an
do
example
voiceover
of
on
Devin
it.
in action.
Let me know if you can hear
I'm
it.
going to ask Devin to benchmark the performance of Llama on a couple of different API providers. From now on, Devin is in the driver's seat. First, Devin makes a step-by-step plan of how to tackle the problem. After that, it builds the whole project using all the same tools that a human software engineer would use. Devin has its own command line, its own code editor, and even its own browser. In this case, Devin decides to use the browser to pull up API documentation so that it can read up and learn how to plug into each of these APIs. Here, Devin runs into an unexpected error. Devin actually decides to add a debugging print statement.
Anyway, I'll just stop it here. So the idea here is that things which we thought we could do separately can also be aggregated now, and those things are happening. But by the way, if you, and I saw some chat here, but if you go back to, there's a lot of YouTube video and a lot of articles saying that Devin is made up and it's carefully orchestrated. So the thing is whether Devin may be ready, may not be ready is not the point. What I'm saying is these things are happening, and these things maybe not Devin now, something else would come. I heard there's the one more thing called Devika that is there, which is similar. Someone will crack this problem, and maybe in a year or 2 year down the line, these things will also start coming, right? And I also don't want to take too much time on this video, but there's also this element that we are no longer coding or programming in Java or .NET, right? You have Jensen Huang, who is the CEO of NVIDIA, saying that prompt will be the new language or the human language. Earlier, we always been told that you want to know, you need to do STEM, you need to understand computer programming. But now we are saying the computer should understand our programming language. And that is exactly what is happening right now. Right? So this is where we are going. So again, there is a mix of hype, there is a mix of truth, but there are, what I'm trying to say is a lot of things that are changing right now. Yeah.
AI software engineer. Let me show you an example.
So what's next? Okay, so where do I see? So some of these things are a little speculative. Some of these things are already happening. So this is, I don't have a crystal ball, but what I'm trying to say is that how possibly things are going to change in the future for our jobs, our different roles, right? So if you look at this, this is a typical SDLC life cycle, and I've compressed it a bit to make it a bit simpler. Is that we are already using GenAI tools. Okay, we are doing. If you look at a product person is already talking to a market research model. It could be a prompt tune model or a fine tune model. Doesn't matter, right? It's talking to a Gemini, Chat GPT, or something else, and it is getting a lot of information and already doing that. You have BAs who are already doing that. You have UI UX folks who are also already speaking. So each of these roles, if you notice, are already doing these sort of roles currently. Right? These things are already happening. Okay, but if I sit somewhere in this area, right? Now, if I ask and if I look at the BA and if I look at the stories that ChatGPT today generates, okay, I, as a person who is not a great business analyst person, would think that it looks very nice. It looks cool, and ChatGPT does a pretty good job of making stuff that looks nice, right? But if you ask a BA or a product person, they will say, "Oh, it is missed this things. These things are a gap and all that stuff." Right? Even me as a developer, when I'm using these things and trying to build something out, you would say that the code that is generated has a lot of issues. You have the cycle of fixing, and these are the things. There is currently a prompt plus validation loop that is currently happening today. There is an element that we are already doing these things as we go along, right? And this will keep on happening. We all will be sort of working with some sort of a model, getting some inputs, and doing this kind of loop for across various roles, right? So this is what is already happening right now. We all are using this right now. Then, if you look at the next thing, right? In the future, if you hear about the term and if you're following these terms, there's an element of agentic LLMs, right? Where you're saying that LLM agents may interact with each other and with a human to solve the business problem. Okay. So when you look at previously, you had individual tasks being done, but what you could also do is that you have uh, the two roles also looking at two agents also working to each other and trying to solve these specific problems. Like, just to give an example, right? A business analyst agent will come up with a bunch of acceptance criteria, but an architecture agent may say that if that acceptance criteria does not have anything around NFRs or what is the latency budget and all those things, right? So those are things that can happen, and there are areas where the human will be pulled into doing that, and these are things that will happen in the future. And again, these are all the tasks and responsibility. But what I'm trying to bring here is that right now and the foreseeable future, technology is not ready to do everything outside the human loop. There'll always be a human involved, and we will all be sort of like the gatekeepers to ensure that all these things finally go together and solve the business outcomes. And this is something that will happen eventually. We will all be doing some sort of a validation things. We have to build a specific guardrails and controls, and there are a lot of elements that require to build those things. Right? And those are things that needs to continue as we go along in the future. So let's talk about what to do, right? Like if you are a developer and tester, how do we go about doing it? Okay, and how do you? So you have to. The goal is that we need to write this rate, and these changes will keep on happening. There'll be something new coming 3 years down the line. So what does it mean for us as a craft? And if you look at this, and if you look at the entire development and testing ecosystem, and if you just look at GenAI as a filter right now, there are many things happening. So if you just look at, and I just took this framework from a technology radar approach that ThoughtWorks has. But if you look at the techniques, right? So there are elements, there are different techniques that we need to start learning. So the most important thing is around things like prompt engineering. Uh, there are things around how do we test these applications. So prompt engineering is something. But I will get into this detail. But it's a bit dense slide. Hold on for a minute. But I'll just talk about the various aspects that are there. So these are some of the techniques that you need to learn around AI-driven test generation, prompt tuning, fine tuning, the RAG evaluations, and ethics and bias evaluation. So these are things that you need to start embedding, and this is for both, right? You're using prompting and you're using GenAI to develop applications, which could be a mobile app, web app, front end, whatever. And you're using GenAI to build applications, right? You're building a chatbot using GenAI, or using GenAI within integrated within your platform, right? Just to give you a view, a lot of our apps are UI centered. You have UI, UX, all that. Do you think that is going to be there in the future? If you follow Rabbit R1, which has a large action model behind the scene, you can do a lot of things just by voice and not just by text. Okay, so what I'm saying is the UI of the past may not be the UI UX of the future. So your apps will also change, and these things, so these are the kind of techniques that we need to evolve to pick that, right? Then there are a lot of platforms coming in, and I'll tell you one thing: these are very overwhelming stuff, because sometimes I get overwhelmed the amount of things that come in YouTube. I'll try to decipher a bit on the things, but there are a lot of platforms around. Earlier, when I started building my first rack, I had to build that manually, but now there are platforms that can help you stitch it fairly together, right? You need to understand some of these LLM platforms. You need to understand the various machine learning and data science platform, and these are things that there. But there are other elements also that have started coming, like when you deploy, it's not, Genia is moving right now. A lot of POCs are happening, but once the POC end and when it gets to production, life becomes completely different. You're talking about completely different elements about scale, ensuring that if things go wrong, you're able to observe the system. So those things also need to be built into the entire life cycle, right? uh, your I would say things like coding assistance, right? Your different tools are getting into the picture, both around automated tests as well as development. And you're also talking about the various frameworks that are coming around the development and testing area. And I will just want to highlight few areas where I think if you have started, great. If not, you could probably start double clicking on just to start getting used to it. So one area I would say, before even getting into this, probably understanding where GenAI helps. So the reason why it is, like, I have spoken to people where now GenAI has become like this blunt weapon or a hammer that is looking for a nail. Okay, everybody is like, okay, throw GenAI at the problem and it will solve it. That's not what it is, right? When you are, let's just give an example, right? You want to build a simple sentiment analysis as an example, right? Now, sentiment analysis is a problem that was solved even in the classical AI. You can do that fairly quickly. Okay, but you can do that with GenAI also. Now, if you're doing 1 million text and you want to do a sentiment analysis, you can imagine the budget that will happen on your chat GPT. Right? Those are expensive things, right? So it's not that you, so as when you take a step back and you say, okay, what is the right solution to my customer's problem? So that's the first thing that I think you should start reorienting yourself towards that, right? Then the tools will come. So I always, when I was my first developer, right, my tech lead said that the fundamentals of concepts are the most important things, right? Technique, frameworks, tools, languages will keep on coming and going, but the focus should be on the fundamentals and this, and that applies exactly the same thing, right? Let's not get chasing the hype, but look at which tool matters to solve the problem at the cheapest fashion, right? And these things, when you go to production, is a completely different ballgame altogether. There are a lot of tools are still evolving, like LangChain, Llama, and a lot of buzzwords, but these are not. Still, there's a lot of active development happening. I've got LangChain and Llama breaking my code multiple times because new versions are coming all the time, right? So you need to be careful about it. Things as a POC, things as production are completely different things. You need to worry about it. But if you want to prioritize on certain areas, I would say prompt engineering would be one place where you would should be looking at. Even if you think you know prompting, I would say probably you don't. Most often than not, there are some good things that you can look at how to do well written prompt, because whether you're using for building tools or in building an app around it, this is the most important thing. Then I think 90%, based on my experience, you could actually use a combination of prompt engineering and retrieval augmented generation to build your apps. You don't need fancy things, fine tuning and all that. Mostly you don't need. Okay. And then you accordingly, once you build it, there are elements of testing around it. I would say pick up things about how you could do AI driven test case generation, how do I do RAG evaluations and model based testing. These are areas that you can pick up, right? When you go to the platform, I think if you want to focus on one of the LLM platforms so that you can learn it. And also, if you're building custom LLMs and all, you can look at some of the machine learning and data science platform from here that you could look at. Again, if your company provides or you have access, start using copilots. It will help you a lot. But also need to realize that copilot is just an aid. The code that is written is not perfect, so you need to be aware of that. And talking about, there are many interfaces. So these are things that you could help to build this without any fancy things. There are a lot of other toolings that you can see. Like we have used this to even understand code bases. Like when you are a new developer, you don't know how to understand the code base. There are tools that you can pass your code through, and you can actually ask natural language questions, and it can give you an answer to those, and it can help you understand complex code bases. Right? So these things are already there, but to most of the things, when as a developer and tester, the most important aspects is what are the things I'm marking in red, right? And if you're developing, the two aspects I'm calling out, one is your orchestration framework like LangChain and Llama Index, and the other thing is to test those apps, you would need things like ToolLens, Ragas, and there are many more. I'm just giving some examples. There are many tools, folks, for the things. But the moment you go to production, you're looking at ops, so you need to think about those things. If you're looking at agenting LLM, these are the things that are coming up around AutoGen, AutoGPT. Those are things coming up. Right? So that's just in a nutshell what's happening on the GenAI dev and testing. Then, so again, in case you're not started it, just starting a learning priority based on my experience, prompt, knowing what to ask and how to ask are the two most important things, right? People say I know prompting, but knowing how, that is the most important thing, and I think focusing on that helps a lot. There is a good website called promptingguide.ai. It gives a very nice view of how to do prompting. I would recommend that highly. Then you could focus on building and testing GenAI apps. So these are some of the tools I was speaking about it. And finally, I could talk about multiple tools that could use, but the most important thing is keeping yourself updated, because the site, the page I put up about the whole buffet of tools, 3 months down the line, it will disappear, right? Those tools may change, something new will come up. So keep on updated is one thing that I could request all of you, right? And finally, just parting thoughts, I know I'm running out of time, is that yes, we are going through a period of interesting technology disruptions. And yes, it will impact the way we work and we do software delivery in the coming future, right? But I don't think it has to be scary. We need to embrace it, and power ahead is one thing, right? You have to surf it, you have to ride it. The other thing I want to call out, right, is that people think GenAI is complex if they don't know, because they use it as a tool and not something that they can use it for development. My view is that doing AI/ML and GenAI in the past, I think GenAI is has become more software engineering rather than data science and machine learning, in my opinion, for the general use cases. Of course, if you go fine tuning and all that, those things are complex. But 80-90% of the use cases, you can use GenAI as a tool to build applications, and I think it has made AI development a little bit uncool. So my view, anybody can get into GenAI development, even building application on top of GenAI, and it's fairly fast to do that in now. I think that's it. I'm over my time. I would be happy to take any Q&A.
For Q&A, folks, I will request everyone just take 10 seconds, go through the questions upvote, because we are having a time gap. Okay, so I'll be picking up the questions on the priority basis. By the time I will pick the first question on the priority, do you think that security can be compromised by using AI?
So, uh, it depends. So, what do you mean by okay? So, I know I can't ask a follow up question. What does that mean? But there is an element of when you look at AI as an application or a model or something, right? What goes in and what comes out is something that is equally important, and we need to protect it, right? And again, the security is a big term. I don't know what exactly you mean by it, but like you need to ensure that what goes into a model, the data is clean and secure, and you need to also ensure and put the guardrails to ensure that what comes out of the model is also secure. And once the model is trained, bear in mind that it's a bunch of weights at the end of the day. So it's very difficult to do RBAC within a model, the access control and all that. Right? That happens around the model. So you need to ensure what goes in and what comes out is fairly protected, and you have the specific guardrails around the model. But that being said, if you go, there is OWASP has a big security guidelines on how AI and ML and LLM security can be made stronger. And I would request you to go and read that if you want, because there's a nice little 10 or 20 steps around how to do that.
Perfect. The next question is, if AI can do most of the things, then how and what testers should do in future?
Okay, yeah. So that's a good question, but I thought I answered it, right? I think I don't think you just press a button and things will get done, at least for the foreseeable future. And again, we don't know how fast technology changes, right? But where the human intelligence plays in the picture, because what comes out of it always will require to have the human in the loop, and we will be orchestrators to ensure that all these things tie together to do that, right? And whether it comes to testing or whether it comes to development, so I think those roles will play a very big part. But what the roles might itself become fuzzy, hurry, to your point, right? Because are there going to be fixed set of roles saying there is a BA product, etc.? They might become fuzzy. But the task of getting, because I personally think I won't use the word tester, I would say the word QA, right? A QA is like the gatekeeper of quality, in my opinion, right? And it's a gatekeeper of business outcomes.
Yeah.
So they will be the most important people to ensure that AI doesn't give bad stuff out to the world, and that is going to be a much more stronger role, in my opinion. And both security as well as functional testing would be the most important.
That was awesome. Just a second. Yeah. Um, yeah. The next question is, what is the best AI model for security testing?
So, best AI model for security testing. So I'm not sure I understand the question. It is to test security, or because again, I am not from a strong security domain, just to be very this about it. But my question is, are you trying to protect an AI model from hacks or issues, or is it using an AI model to build something security, right? But the thing is, a lot of models can be used to help you build the security procedures and all that, but there's always be human in the loop to ensure that what comes out of it. Because finally, it's a question of accountability. You can't ask a chatbot to do something and just publish it. What if something goes wrong? And especially security is a very, very important domain. That if something goes wrong, who is accountable for it?
Yeah.
Right? It has to be a human that is accountable.
Yeah. Awesome. Next question is, most of the LLMs are based on data till some years back. Example, ChatGPT response based on its training data till 2017. With that said, how can we be confident enough to imply these LLM models in creating and finalizing requirements or anywhere in SDLC?
So my 2 cents on this, right? First thing, ChatGPT, again, the version 4 that I run is last updated in December 2023. Okay, the 3.5 might be updated a little bit in the past, right? So my view is that at the end of the day, you cannot have LLMs will always be little behind in terms of training, because the cost of training is very high, and that is where things like retrieval augmented generation and all that are very popular, where you're not expecting your LLM to bring its own knowledge, but you're taking a good LLM that you think works, you provide context from your knowledge base, and you ask the LLM to use the knowledge base and give the answer. So that whole, if you can read about retrieval augmented generation, the context comes from outside. It is not the inherent knowledge that is there in the GPT, Chat GPT, Geminis of the world, because they'll always take time. These things take a long time to train. The next time they may release the version, it will be 6 months down the line, right? Already it's going to be late.
Yeah.